If you've ever received a 500-word cold pitch disguised as a connection request, congratulations. You've been pitch slapped. Let's have a podcast.
You're listening to Breaking Biz Dev with John Tyerman and Mark Wainwright. Conversations that break down, beat up, and redefine business development for the professional services firms of tomorrow. And now for your hosts, John and Mark.
All right, welcome marketing directors, sales leaders, firm owners, partners, business developers to another episode of Breaking Biz Dev. I'm John, and as always, I am joined by my trusty co-host, Mark Wainwright.
John, hello. Fantastic opening there. You hooked them right in. I love your term. That might be a new one on some people, but the pitch slap is a thing.
I can't take full credit for that. I am totally borrowing that from Josh Braun, I believe. He coined that term. He's the first I've heard say that. But
yeah, he's a pro.
It's an easy connection to make, so he may not have been the first.
Totally. Yeah. This makes people like you and I look really bad. The folks that are actually doing really good marketing and selling out there in the world, when this stuff shows up, it makes a mess of things. So it absolutely, this topic deserves to be taken out into the alley and beat up, John.
Yep. We got our baseball bats. We've got our tire irons.
Yeah. We're going to work it over. And it's, and some of this is screaming the obvious. It's like, of course, that's not what I'm going to do. But I will tell you what, I have folks that I have worked with in the past, clients that, when I get into the nitty gritty of them, it's like, how did you do that outreach? It's like, well, I just sent them this random note and started talking about myself right away. And I was like, oh boy, you just did it. You did it. How did you do that? So yeah, there you go. So the pitch slap, right? So before we get too deep into it, yes, we're going to beat up what we refer to as social selling. We're gonna highlight some of the bad parts to it, and of course, as you would expect, we're gonna come in with some ideas of our own on how you can make it much better and how you can make it more about your prospective clients than all about you. So we're gonna talk about that today. We're gonna talk about the problems. We're gonna tear down some examples that you have. I probably even have a couple right here, but I'm going to focus this on you.
They weren't hard to find.
No, they're not hard to find. Just go look in your LinkedIn, message inbox, and there we are. And then we're going to talk about a new way to approach all of this. And I would be remiss without asking all of you to subscribe, rate, review, etc. our little show, Breaking Biz Dev. We've really appreciated all the work we've done over the last 2 years, cranking out some fun episodes. So yeah, dig in. We've got a fun library that all of you can hopefully find some value in. So that's kind of where we are, John. We're going to talk about social selling.
Yep. Social selling. Fantastic idea. Executed terribly. So this is going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah. And it's on the marketing to selling continuum. I think a good bit of what we're going to be talking about today is that direct one-to-one outreach that we experience, direct messages, either, on a social platform or through email or whatever else it is. So from my end of things, that tends a little bit more towards the selling end of things. So this is definitely a selling topic, but it's marketing as well. No doubt about it. This could even find its way into the messy middle, but it's a good topic. So let's dig into the problem, right?
Let's do it.
So what's the big idea here that we're going to start to highlight?
In the past, we've talked about the salesperson mindset, this persona, this like Glengarry Glen Ross, coffees for closers, this always be closing, that like pervasive, toxic salesperson persona that everyone just kind of defaults to, I think.
Yep.
And what I'd love to do is highlight that on social media and that mindset being kind of translated over. And so I think like a lot of folks get a little bit of confidence hiding behind a keyboard sometimes.
Yeah.
And that adds to it a little bit too. So you've got these professionals who are in a position where they either are charged with going out and developing new business through LinkedIn or whatever, or Facebook or whatever social platform you pick, or they want to do it on their own, but they don't know how. And so it's one of those two extremes. And so I think like, you see a lot of what you refer to as pointer sister posts.
Yeah.
We're so excited. We're thrilled.
Terrible.
Those words just give you just
Yeah.
like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah. You see that stuff show up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see that stuff show up in the feed, and then you see all these pitches in your inbox, and we'll get to that and the teardown of that. But I think that's the big problem is people adopt this salesperson persona and they don't know how to do social selling effectively. And so they default to these horrible tactics.
Yeah. It's easy to identify someone who's not good at it, someone who's maybe just started at it. They have their boss, whoever else says, all right, go send X number of messages or emails or whatever else. Just go.
I think another problem is, and this is kind of like stems from that a little bit, is you can't really tell if it's authentic or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've seen folks on X, folks on LinkedIn share the same exact story like a year apart.
Yeah.
And it was like just the other day I was talking to my client and he was in this situation and I helped him 10x his income. And you see that it's like verbatim, word for word. You can like copy and paste the post and like put it in your search bar and find it again. So it's like inauthenticity, but then it's also like you see these CEOs who are posting on LinkedIn constantly. A lot of them are using ghostwriters. A lot of them are using VAs and ChatGPT. So how do you know that it's real, right? And so like that, like I think that is starting to kind of creep into the mindset of people on social media. I think folks are getting a little bit wiser to that too. Is this really that person and their expertise, or am I being hoodwinked?
Agreed. Yeah. I wouldn't even say it's creeping in. I said it's, I think it's there and it's pervasive and, really trying to figure out if there's actually a person behind this or not, if they're just looking for somebody to click a link and, find their way in their direction. So yeah, that's a good one. All right. So we need to define what social selling should be, right? We want to, what should it be? And, what is it now? And I think we've alluded to some of that.
Well, I think social selling, just like business development and professional services in general, is about building relationships, earning trust, and then surfacing signals of demand and not pushing for a sale, but building your network, building those relationships. And when the time comes where there is a need, you are top of mind.
Yeah.
Now
that's what it should be.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is.
It ain't that.
No, it's become lead gen theater. It's become AI agents automating DMs. It's become hello first name when people forget to plug in the right data fields to their automated outreach.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just become just a mess.
Yeah, I would agree. I get those all the time, outreach from people who are trying to teach me how to sell. And I wrote them back and I said, I actually get paid to do that.
I know how to sell and you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you just did it wrong.
Do you want to learn how to sell?
Yeah, I'm happy to send a contract your way. So so let's come back to that term pitch slap that you mentioned earlier, right? So what's a good example of that when that happens?
Man, it's like you get the connection request on LinkedIn and it says, "Hi, John. Hi, Mark. I'm looking to connect with other professionals in the industry. Care to connect?" And then it's just kind of like this vague like overview. Like sometimes there's a little bit of tailoring that goes along with those notes. Sometimes it's just a connection request without a note.
Yeah. Harmless. Seems harmless.
Yeah. But as soon as you click accept, like sometimes it's within minutes, but definitely within like 24 to 48 hours, you're getting a DM that is just 500 words. You have to wade through it. It's very me focused, my services, we help. And none of it is about how you are going through these challenges and are you feeling this pain? And there's no questioning. There's no like, even just like building relationships is just straight into the pitch.
Got it. All right. So there's our pitch slap, right? It can come up front. It can come after you connect. They can come at you a
Yeah.
number of ways, but they all sound very similar. And you've got some specific examples, John, that you
Yeah.
pulled. Did you pulled these from your LinkedIn messages?
It was not hard to find these.
No, they're everywhere.
And I went to my LinkedIn messages, and then like you can go to like they have like focused and like other and spam. And so I went to focused first, and I was able to find plenty examples. And then I went to like other and spam, and it was just too horrendous. It's like, like opening the door and seeing the too bright of a light. Just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even go in there for these ones. So these are the ones that made it past the spam folders,
Crazy.
and they're still really bad.
Got it.
So let's start with this first one.
Yeah.
Hi, first name. Not even hi, John. Hi, first name.
My first name.
I won't say the company. I work for a company where we specialize in helping European companies successfully break into the UK market. By combining demand and lead generation strategies, we build trust with decision makers, yada, yada, yada. We've worked with companies like sports tech businesses in Bulgaria and software developers in the Czech Republic. I would be happy to share more about how we've supported businesses like yours. It took, I don't know, a full paragraph before you see the word you in there.
Yeah. No, this is good. So this is something that you have received. Obviously, it was, this was just a blanket spam junk because whoever sent this did no homework.
No, I'm not a European company. I'm not looking to break into the UK market.
Right. So so that's a softball. That's an easy one.
It was
gross. It was gross. All right. So you've got others. I know
I've got
others.
more. And so I know you're thinking, John, we get those all the time. You're calling out what everyone sees everywhere. And so personally for me, I just want to call this one out because this is sensitive to me in my industry. I get this all the time. Dear sir or madam, I am professional Apple podcast promoter. Do you want to promote your podcast? Thanks. I get it. And goes on. I will make you the best podcaster in the world. I will give you top 10 rankings. Nice. I will give you organic downloads, yada, yada. So first of all, as a podcast host, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of work to build an organic audience over time. Those things are not given to you.
Right.
And so the fact that these people are preying on podcast hosts who genuinely want to grow their show, they don't know how. So if you are out there and if you're listening to this and if you're thinking about launching a podcast, don't fall for those hacks who say they can promise top 10 rankings, promise downloads. The audience that you need to build, it needs to be organic and it needs to be one-to-one. You're winning over listeners one at a time.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was a soapbox that I just wanted to step on.
No, it was good. There's plenty of soapboxes in this too. We're gonna get to the next kind of group of them that you mentioned here. Was they got off the ground? They started off initially promising, but then it just crashed and burned. You said here, so I've before you jump in with yours, I've got one that kind of got off the ground okay for me, and then didn't. So I got this is LinkedIn. Hey Mark, got the name right. Just finished your Breaking Biz Dev episode on proposal failures. Oh,
nice. Okay.
Your take on the self-diagnosis approach to understanding client needs was impressive. Whatever episode that was, I can't recall.
They're off to a good start.
Second paragraph. Many professional service firm owners prefer short clips from your podcast over listening to full episodes, especially when shared on LinkedIn. I can help you create short form content, and through this multiple account, multiple channel distribution approach. I want to see how it works, right? So that's what this guy sent to me. John, I'd had enough that day. Maybe it was late. I was feeling a little snarky. I responded and I said, we literally have short and long form content on multiple channels for our Breaking Biz Dev podcast. And that's what I said. Yeah. He didn't do his homework at all. He didn't know that. Oh, and I also noticed that you do short-term videos. No, we do them. We get on YouTube. They're on LinkedIn. They're all over the place. So I was just feeling snarky. So I sent that back. So you have got some other ones that started off okay too, and then failed.
Yeah, I do. And I think I think first of all, I think those short form videos that we put out, I feel like they're pretty good. And
Yeah.
we do a lot of them. They're on YouTube. If you're listening to this, follow us on LinkedIn, where you can find those short form videos too.
You're listening to Breaking Biz Dev,
The podcast that beats up, breaks down, and redefines business development for the professional services firms of tomorrow. Your hosts are John Tyerman, founder of Red Cedar Marketing, the podcast marketing company for experts and professional services firms,
and Mark Wainwright, principal consultant and founder of Wainwright Insight, the fractional sales manager and sales consultant to professional services firms.
If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by following the show and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts.
And now, back to the show.
I appreciate you going to bat for me there, buddy.
No, it's good. And I gave this guy a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because he said he could promise me 3x to 5x results. And he didn't go as far as to say 10x results because everybody's gotten one of those that says, I can 10x your results. So he was, hedging his bets on that one. So good for him. All right.
Here's something that crashed and burned. I'll give you two that started off okay and then crashed.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one on LinkedIn, when you send DMs, you have the option to put like a subject line. It's like an email.
Yeah.
And so for this one, the subject line was accounting services that maximize profits and accelerate growth. Okay. Like services, what's the benefit? All right. Like, let me click into this.
All right.
Hi, John. I took a look at your profile and saw that you have an impressive track record. Okay. Thanks. We know companies in your position need financial clarity and oversight in order to maximize profits and accelerate growth. We do some outstanding accounting, compliance, tax planning, and prep work that we'd love to share with you. Happy to set up a quick call. I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
How does early next week work for you?
Yeah.
So there's no sense of inquiry. There's like, is this something that you're dealing with?
Yeah.
There's no like, hey, here's our services and here's the pain point. He should have stopped right there and asked, is this something that you're dealing with right now? Instead of going for the call.
Right. Need to present this really good, genuine sense of curiosity right up front rather than starting, to beating your own chest immediately. So yeah, good. Okay. There was another one.
All right. This is the last one. So I got this pitch. Hi, John. Are you interested in an analysis of your current online presence? It's complimentary, requires 30 minutes, and my team will review your current online profiles and give you an actionable recommendations to grow them. Okay. Off to a good start. Are you interested in this analysis? It's complimentary, 30 minutes. So I understand the time investment that's required. I understand that this is a free offer. Do you have time to review next week or the week after? Okay. I think you'll find the insights beneficial at the very least. My company is a solution that optimizes yada, 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 executive presidents. And it goes through and here's my Calendly link. Please feel free to find some time. So I thought that they could have done without the whole bit about their company. I can click through to her profile and check them out.
Yeah.
It was just a little too much fat there.
Yeah. Crashed and burned. And, just a level set for everybody who's listening along with us, folks, is that everybody who's listened to John and I talk these things through have said, oh yeah, I get these same things all the time and they're absurd and I don't read them or I delete them or whatever else, whether it's an email or LinkedIn message, whatever else. But here's the point we're trying to make, folks, is that when we work together, I even have clients who will come to me and said, hey, I'm going to send this email out to this potential client. And they send me the example for me to kind of like review and edit and stuff. It sounds like this stuff.
Yeah.
These are smart individuals. It sounds like this. So
it's the salesperson mindset just being applied.
Yeah. It's just that default setting. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to say, there's lots of people out there that do it. They do bad examples. These bad examples should be telling you something that you need to do it differently. If these outreach examples that we've talked about, terrible examples, stuff that just people would immediately delete. If you've crafted something recently that even looks a little bit like this, good luck, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. So there we go. So what's the solution, John? What is the solution?
Well, I think the solution is applying all the concepts that we've talked about on this podcast to your social media marketing, to your social selling, if you want to categorize them both that way, to
Yep.
just social media in general. And I think the very first place to start is focus and
Mm.
understanding who your ideal clients are. And that's the very first place to focus. And we talked about prospecting on a past episode, right?
Yep.
And you mentioned and you advocated for a cohort-based approach,
Yeah.
right? Like pick 10 prospects over a 2-week period and you run them through some sort of a light outreach campaign.
Yep.
And so I think that's a good way to apply focus to social selling is number one, understanding who the profile that you're targeting. And then number two, focusing on a small cohort of individuals and go deeper on those cohort as opposed to going wide and automating outreach to hundreds or thousands of people.
Right. So research, focus
Yep.
on your ideal client profile. That gets you much further down the road than any of these other lousy examples that we pointed out, right? Just getting a message in front of someone that is hyper relevant to them and their situation. Sure, that'll get you to kind of the first base, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Ooh, I like the baseball analogy. Let's run with that.
Okay. All right.
So how do you steal second then?
Oh.
Well, listen.
Yep.
Listen to understand. And that's the other part of another core concept that we've talked about on this podcast is understanding, right? And so instead of trying to sell your services and educate, listen, observe, learn their language. How do they talk about certain topics? Read their content, click through to their website for
Yeah.
God's sakes. You can go to your prospect's profile on LinkedIn, scroll down, and you can go to the comments, click on the comments button under activity. You can read all the comments that they make on other people's posts. Like,
Right.
how are they engaging and what are they saying and how are they describing those challenges? So if I like this quote, if you don't know what matters to them, you haven't earned the right to be in their inbox.
That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. So listen to understand, right? So we start, do some deep research, and then really what we're approaching them with a good sense of curiosity, asking questions and listening to understand.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. All right. What else? What else do you have here?
So now we're going to start to emerge from below the iceberg. We're going to I'm mixing metaphors again.
A lot of metaphors. Yeah.
We're going to become visible now. We're going to start to engage with the prospects.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where you can comment on their posts. You can, tag them and, hey, I thought about you on a comment under someone else's post. Hey, thought you might find this valuable. Ask good questions in comments. Like if they're posting about a certain topic and you have either an understanding or maybe somebody who does, provide value, deposit value in that way. And, get your prospects thinking a little bit differently or more in line with how you see a solution to that challenge or how you describe that problem.
Yeah. Some people out there could almost look at this as kind of lurking, right? On LinkedIn, but
Sure.
I think you could easily turn that in the right direction by just coming in really curious, right? Asking those good questions, right? This liking and sharing and no other interaction thing might only get you so far, but I think engaging in a curious way is going to get you, because there's kind of a fine line between kind of lurking and just sort of paying attention,
Right.
sort of being sort of engaged. So this is going to get you to cross that line. It's like, if you engage right, you're not coming in saying stuff. You're coming in asking questions.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
good.
if you focused appropriately, then you should have something relevant to say in the conversation.
Yeah. Good. And then you've got this next little step here is that lo and behold, maybe that sort of conversation in the comments now turns into something more one-to-one.
I've seen this play out in my own practices, but then also if I'm having conversations with other people online, and so it's like, hey, we had this great back and forth on this post. I appreciate your perspective. Can you explain what you meant by why? And like take it to the next level. Like sometimes like the back and forth gets a little tired in a public forum, but there may be a way to have a more meaningful engagement in a more private setting. So you'll have to use your judgment on that one, and when it makes sense to, because there's value in leaving comments on someone else's post. That's a great signal to the algorithm, so you're depositing value in that way. But maybe you can add a little bit more applied expertise, and you can do that in the DMs.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And to come back to that baseball analogy thing, first base, second base, third base kind of thing, I think maybe at least some of you out there conceptually kind of understand what that whole thing is that the reality is that you're never going to make it around all the bases on LinkedIn or in DMs or whatever else.
Right.
It's like you're only going to be able to advance this thing so far, and then you're going to hopefully have a synchronous conversation where then you can truly kind of figure out if there's a good fit there, right? If we're talking this really early stuff, we're not chasing down projects and contracts and, consulting engagements. We're chasing down sort of hellos, introductions, that initial stuff, right? And that's where this all comes to play. So, yeah, very, very good.
And then leveraging kind of like the marketing aspect to generate conversations. And that's where the content comes into play and publishing. That is a slice of the pie. And it's important because it signals authority, it signals credibility, it signals expertise, it signals that you have perspective on certain topics.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that you're weaving into the conversations or sharing or whatever else points to some content that you have been creating on your end of things that's relevant and meaningful to them.
And that's a really, really important part, because the content that you're putting out there, those conversations that we were just talking about in the comments, it doesn't always have to happen on your prospects' posts, right? Those conversations can happen through posts that you publish through your own profile or your company profile.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you're talking about the questions that buyers actually have or the challenges that they actually are wrestling with right now in their firms, chances are you're going to generate some conversations around that.
Yeah, very good. So that's where content comes in, and people who are listening are keeping track of this. This is way more complex than just firing off some random lame emails or direct messages on the social platform. There's a ton of stuff in there's the content creation. There's, so this is not an easy thing. Yeah.
Well, it's like marketing and sales happening at the same time.
Yep.
And so there's this dance that needs to happen. There's all sorts of different slices to that pie. When you think of social selling, it's really social media marketing, social selling, it's relationship building. It should all be kind of viewed holistically, because if you just isolate one slice of that pie, it's not going to advance the outcomes that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had this sort of next little chunk here that's, that we're nurturing this whole thing, which means that it's going, like I just said, it's going to take time, and it's not sort of a simple, easy thing. So it requires some patience, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, if we're sticking with the baseball analogy, you're not going to hit a home run on LinkedIn,
right?
You might get lucky. Maybe you get lucky. Who knows? I won't say never.
Rarely.
But very rarely.
Yeah.
So
not at a high enough percentage to make it reliable in any sense, right?
Yes.
And that's the difference here is that, right, if it's highly unreliable or unpredictable, then it's not worth sort of setting expectations around that.
So if you approach social selling understanding that that's not going to happen, then all of those DMs that we just tore down, they all say, hey, do you want to book a meeting next week? Here's my Calendly link, like on the first pitch.
Yeah.
So like if you go into this understanding that you do need to have patience, you do need to build a relationship, then it kind of reframes your perspective to, is there a way that I can add value to this individual right now? Maybe it's making a connection to another person. Maybe it's sharing a resource, or maybe it's answering a question that they were wrestling with in a public forum that you can add applied expertise to in a private conversation.
Yeah. So it's it takes some time. It takes situational awareness that we've talked about in other concept areas. It takes patience. And it's the point here is, you have to know when to advance or ask to move to the next step. they need to be hyper aware of that rather than just assuming that someone immediately wants to schedule the meeting on your Calendly link, right? So that's critical.
I like to think about relationships like a bank account.
Mm.
You need to make withdrawals, or you need to make deposits into those accounts before you can make a withdrawal. So
Agreed.
if you think about relationships in that sense, when you're doing social selling, if you have a chance to have a one-on-one conversation, how can you make a deposit into that relationship before you ask for a withdrawal?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. All right, let's how do all of our friends out there actually make this thing feel like it's not just some crappy DM spam junk that they're pushing out? It doesn't make them feel icky, right? How do we do that?
Yeah, you might be thinking, I'm not a creator, I'm an architect, or I'm an engineer, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
You know, I hate LinkedIn. I hate doing business development. I hate doing sales. Honestly, you probably don't need to create as much as you think. And you don't need to create as much as you need to connect with other people.
Yeah.
I think 15 minutes a day you should be able to, within 15 minutes a day, create at least some sort of regular publishing cadence on from the marketing sense, establishing your thought leadership and authority. And that can be from recycling firm content on the blog, from your newsletter, other posts that you've done, other emails that you've sent, just taking that copy, paste, edit for the medium. So 15 minutes a day, and maybe one day is writing out posts. Maybe the next day, that 15 minutes is looking at a list of your prospects and really looking through their profiles and getting to understand them better.
Yeah. So not a lot of time. Maybe some people like 15 minutes is a lot. Maybe even, half an hour a week or whatever. The time, frankly, is not critical. What is critical is some regular cadence, right? It's either daily or weekly or whatever else. Some regular cadence where you're constantly coming back at it, and you're practicing this, so you're getting better at it. You're not going on to LinkedIn or whatever other social media platform just like scrolling through stuff, right? You're there for a reason and for a purpose, and you have some intention and some focus on what you're doing. So use it as a tool. It's there, and refine, focus. Use that sort of 10 people sort of cohort approach when you're doing this. Use this as one of your prospecting touches, right? We talked about prospecting multi-channel. This is just one channel. Don't put all your eggs in the LinkedIn basket. Spread your outreach across multiple channels. So that's the role that this has. And then there's some great examples and some fantastic resources, John. I know that we try to be a good resource for people, but I know there's a ton of other stuff too.
Oh, there's lots of resources on social media management, social selling. I think some good examples to go and look at. Jonathan Stark is a great example, and he's a leading podcast voice. His Ditcherville comics,
it's a good one,
are great. Go check out Jonathan Stark. He uses the same comic template. There's like 6 frames, and then he just switches out the text in each one of them to.
I'm familiar
his
with
whole
that.
thing
That's
is he wants to beat up the hourly billing rate, and so it's all around that.
But he's, people think he's only out there for self-employed solopreneurs, but he's not. He's really, really useful for people even inside large organizations who just want to sort of find opportunities to do some singular activities on their own, which is really good. And you had some others listed here too.
Tom Fishburne is another, and he's very popular, and you've probably seen some of his images out there, but he's the Marketoonist. And it's essentially like these like little like cartoon drawings, but they illustrate a marketing concept.
Yeah.
And so if you want to look at creative ways to do social media, that would be kind of another way, and taking like a creative spin on it. But if you're thinking of like, okay, well, how do I create an efficient way to repurpose, maybe old content, or to publish new content? A podcast is a great way to do that.
Without a doubt,
taking those video clips like you mentioned earlier, Mark. But even if you don't have a podcast, you've got a an iPhone or an Android phone, you could probably take like a 2-minute selfie video talking about a certain topic. So, that takes 5 minutes to, record a video and then click publish with a quick caption. You could go back, like I mentioned, to your newsletter or your blog and recycle some of the copy there. So there's a number of different ways to approach that content creation challenge.
Yeah. You are right. There's plenty of content out there. You just have to find it. Probably some content that, like you said, lives on your website, lives on social media already that you can grab a hold of. Content creation's gotten pretty easy these days, John. Like you said, you have a phone in your hand, you can make a video. So there's that. So we just beat up social selling. Easy to do, John. It just shows up every single day and it's easy to beat up. But what's the, there's one big thing it's always missing, right?
And it's called social media for a reason. The human element, just being human. And Mark, before we close, I want to put an offer out there.
Oh.
If folks are if they want to get started with like a prospecting sequence, I would be happy to do a teardown or to give you feedback on your prospecting sequence. So if you're listening to this and you want me to take a look at it, send it my way on LinkedIn, john@redcedarmarketing.com. If you've got if you want to send it over on email. So I'm happy to take a look.
I love that. That's a very generous offer. Most people that are listening are like, a prospecting what? It's like, all right, we'll go back to the prospecting episode.
Listen to that first.
Listen to that first. And then that'll tie together with the social selling thing that says, if I'm actually going to use social media, some social channel out there as one of the steps or multiple steps in my prospecting sequence, this episode really kind of hopefully retrains you on how to use that in that sequence. But yeah, the whole sequence is really important. And I'm certain that you could provide a ton of value to people who are out there and need some help. So John, this has been fun. Until next time.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Biz Dev. Subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or listen to the show at breakingbizdev.com. This episode was produced by Red Cedar Marketing. If you think a business podcast is right for your company, visit redcedarmarketing.com to learn more.